Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, everyone. The Honorable Miss Evelina Maulida SPD MBA, as the lecturer of the English Office course, and all my friends. On this occasion, we are from Group 11, will deliver material from the life coaching chapter. Our group consists of 4 people, which are Cecilia, Vira, Rafli, and myself, Nur Hidayat. There are several subtopics that we will cover, which life coaching, organizational change, business consultant, and responsibilities to client. Next, first is what is life coaching? Life coaching is a process carried out by a life coach that aims to help individuals identify and achieve personal goals, overcome challenges, and develop their potential. Meanwhile, a life coach is someone who counsels and encourages clients through personal or career challenges. A life coach helps guide clients to reach their ultimate goals. A life coach can help individuals in different areas of their life, but because each human being is different, so will their goals. Oftentimes, a life coach counsels clients in personal and professional areas. This means career, potential, personal development, relationship, divorce, grief, and even financial wellness. Next, Next is definition of change. Change can generally be interpreted as a process in which something undergoes transformation, modification, or difference from its previous state. Change can occur in a variety of contexts, including biological, physical, social, economic, and more. Meanwhile, in a social or organizational context, change often refers to a transformation or modification in the structure, policies, culture, or processes of an entity. Changes can be progressive or revolutionary, while the goals can vary, such as increasing efficiency, adapting to changing environment, or achieving new goals. Next. Next is elements in organizational change. First is vision and change strategy. Establishing a clear vision and measurable change strategy is an important first step. A vision provides direction and goals for change, while a strategy details how to achieve that vision. Second is strong leadership. Effective and strong leadership is essential in driving change. Leaders need to provide direction, support, and inspiration to organizational members and be able to manage resistance. Third is effective communication. Open, honest, and ongoing communication helps build understanding and support for change. Communication should include the reasons for the change, expected benefits, and steps to be taken. Fourth is employee participation. Involving employees in the change process provides a sense of ownership and business buy-in. Participation can involve employees in decision-making, change planning, and implementation. Fifth is organizational culture. Organizational culture plays an important role in shaping responses to change. Cultures that support innovation, learning, and adaptation tend to be more successful in dealing with change. Sixth is resistance management. Resistance to change is normal. Resistance management involves identifying resource of resistance, understanding concern, and developing strategies to overcome or manage that resistance. And last is skills and capacity development. Building the skills and capacities required by employees to adapt to change is essential. This is involves training, development, and understanding the changes that will occur. Next. Next is factors driving change in organization. First one is external environmental demands. Changes in in the external environment, such as changes in markets, technology, government regulations, or economic conditions, can force organizations to adapt to remain relevant and sustainable. Second is technological innovation. New technological development often drives changes in the way organizations work. Adoption of new technology can increase an organization's efficiency, productivity, and ability to compete. Third is leadership change. When changes occur in organizational leadership, the vision, mission, and priorities may change. Different leadership styles can bring out changes in organizational culture and strategy. Fourth is market changes and customer needs. Changes in customer preferences or market conditions may force organizations to adapt their products, service, or business models. Fifth is internal pressure. Internal pressure such as operational problems, poor financial performance, or internal conflict can be a trigger for change. Organizations may need to restructure or reform to overcome these challenges. Sixth is globalization demands. In an increasingly globally connected business environment, organizations may need to change to address global competition, manage complex supply chains, or understand the needs of international markets. Seventh is demographic and workforce changes. Changes in workforce demographics, such as changing generations or growing diversity, can trigger changes in human resource policies, organizational culture, and management practices. Eighth is competitive pressure. As organizations face increasing competitive pressure, they may need to make strategic changes to maintain or improve their market position. Nine is efficiency and productivity needs. Organizations may feel the need to improve operational efficiency. Organizations may feel the need to improve operational efficiency and productivity to remain competitive or achieve their financial goals. Then is changes in laws and regulations. Changes in the laws or regulations governing a particular industry or sector may force organizations to adapt and comply with new regulations. Next, next part is factors that can cause something to change in an organization. Change in organizations are often a response to the changing dynamics of the external and internal environment. The following are some general factors that can trigger change in an organization. The first one is external environmental changes factor that can cause something to change in organization. First is technological change. Technological advances can require changes in the way an organization operates or communicates. Two is market changes. Change in customer needs or market competition can force organizations to adapt. Three is regulatory changes. Changes in government regulation or policies may force an organization to adapt its business practices. Next. Okay, next part will be explained by other members.
Okay, next, internal environment change. Number one, organizational structure. Increasing or decreasing the scale of operations, growing or merging of companies can lead to change in the organizational structure. Number two, in the organizational culture. If the values or norms in an organization culture no longer match external goals or demands, a culture change might be necessary. And number three, human resource. In skill recruitment or employee numbers may trigger change and higher policy training or employee development. And last, technology and innovation. Technological development, adoption or change in technology may require training and adjustment in work process. and innovation, the drive to increase efficiency or create new product or service can trigger change. Next, why is change important in organization? Companies often undergo organizational change to continue to grow and ensure success. Change can foster the successful adoption and use of new process within a business, which can increase its efficiency. Here are some other reasons why change can be important to an organization. Number one, remaining relevant. The process of change can help business remain relevant in industries that also change frequently. This can also encourage a healthy relationship between an organization and its customer. Number two, encouraging innovation. The process of change can encourage innovation by allowing a team that change to test new ideas. This can lead to new development in strategies and products. Number three, development skills. The process of change can help with employees and teams on with the what ideas on which skills to develop. The skills can lead to other changes that ensure company has the ability to evolve. Number four, creating new opportunities. The process of change and encourage the creation of new opportunities. This can include new markets, unique target demographic, and collaboration with other companies. And number five, improving staff morale. The process of change and also lead to the improvement of staff morale. Change in an organization can lead to higher efficiency and can help staff members avoid burnout from repetition. Next. And next, how the organization identifies what needs to change within in its internal environment. In the organizational environment change continuously and unavoidably, testing can come from the internal and external environment of the organization. For example, new competitor, technological innovation or development, update government regulation, and so on. In addition, the increasing complex organization and the mistakes the arise make the organization must make careful identification to find things that need to be changed in its environment. This is useful so that the organization is able to pass challenge or take advantage of opportunities that arise from the change that occur. Organization or companies can identify things that need to be changed in the internal environment by conducting an internal environment analysis. The analysis can be done with SWOT analysis, strength, weakness, opportunities, threats, on five production factor, man, machine, material, method, money. This analysis aims to identify the strength and weakness that exist within the company so as to examine arise the record change to improve performance and efficiency. Next. The next, how organization make change. The process of change in the organization is a complex task and requires careful planning. The following are general steps organization can take to make change. Number one, identify the need for change. Evaluation of organizational performance, analysis of the external and internal environment, identify opportunities or challenges that require change. Number two, communication and preparation. Communicate the need for change to all relevant parties. Prepare organizational members for change by providing an understanding of the reason and benefit of change. And next, change team formation. From our dedicated team responsible for planning, managing, and implementing the change. Select team members who have leadership skills and a good understanding of organizational dynamics. Next, change planning. Set clear and measurable change goal. Design an action plan that includes a concrete step to achieve the change goal, identify and group required resources. Number five, organizational member participation. Involve members of the organization in the planning process. Encourage active participation to increase vote and understanding. And next, implementation of change. Implement the change plan gradually. Monitor progress and make adjustment if necessary. Provide necessary research and support. And next, conflict management. Identify potential conflict and resistance. Manage conflict in a constructive way. Communicate openly and honestly about change that occur. Next, evaluation and measurement. Evaluate the result of change based on the goals that have been set. Use performance metric to measure the impact of change. Identify learning and improvement opportunities. Next, employee engagement and empowerment. Provide the necessary training and support to ensure employees can adapt, involve employees in the decision-making process related to change. And next, change maintenance. Implement system or place that ensure continuous change. Cultivate an open attitude toward change as part of the organizational culture. And last, continuous communication. Continue constant communication about change and development. Listen to feedback from members of the organization and remain flexible to respond to change that might be necessary. Successful change requires cooperation and commitment from all relevant parties. Good change management involves effective leaders, open communication, and ongoing change management. Next. Business consultant. Business consultant is a professional that provides guidance or consulting service related to business active, both for companies and individuals. This job helps solve problems and improve business performance from financial management to marketing strategies. This is because it is almost the curtain that business problem will always exist. So not all business run smoothly in the process. Therefore, business consultants have an important role to make a forward planning related to business in order to be able to meet target and achieve profits and avoid losses in the future. Okay, next Evelyn, my friend.
Okay, the next topic is responsibility to the client. There are various responsibilities that must be carried out by business consultant in order to provide his service to client as well as possible, including planning, organizing, and managing business projects for client according to their needs. Working on project related to recruitment, payroll, production, budgeting, marketing, campaigns, etc. Communicate and meet with clients when needed. Okay, the next is gather as much information about the client's business as possible to understand the client's need and want. Maintain the confidentiality of data or information provided by clients. Next is avoid conflict of interest with client. And the last one is provide solution and strategies for improvement and development of business plan in detail. Overall, a business consultant is responsible for the business problems faced by their clients and must be able to provide advice or solution to this problem while maintaining their privacy. The next topic is verb infinitive. Verb infinitive, an infinitive is a verb that function as a noun, adjective, or adverb. The function of the infinitive verb is to express opinion, the purpose of an object, action, and answer question who, what, or why. The basic formula for the infinitive usually start with the word to and is followed by the base form of the verb. Next topic is past simple. Past simple is a form of tense or time in English which is used to express event or action that occurred in the past have finished. This form is also known as the simple past tense. In the past simple, the main verb changes from to adapt to the past tense. The following is the structure of the past simple is first, regular verb. For the regular verb, the past simple form is to add to the end of the verb. Example is talk, play, and work. For example, she talked to her friend yesterday and they played soccer on Saturday. Second is irregular verb. Some verbs are irregular, so the past simple form does not follow a general pattern. Example of irregular verb include go to, went, eat, ate, and see, saw. For example is he went to the store after school and we ate dinner at the new restaurant. Okay, the next is past participle. Past participle is one of the verbs from use in the English language. This form serve various functions, and one of them is in the formation of specific tense time, such as present perfect and past perfect. Generally, the past participle is used with the auxiliary verb have or had. The following is the formation of past participle is first regular verb. For most regular verb, the past participle is formed by adding at to the end of the verb. For example, is she had played the piano since she was a child, and they had talked about the plan before the meeting. The second is irregular verb. Some verbs are irregular, so their past participle does not follow the usual pattern. Example of irregular verb include go to gone, eat, eaten, see, seen. For example, is he has gone to the store and we had eaten dinner when they arrived. Okay, the next topic will be explained by my colleague.
The next one is usage of past participle in present perfect and past perfect. In present perfect, the formula is has or have plus past participle. The examples is I have finished my homework or she has visited that museum. On past perfect, the formula is had plus past participle. The examples is they had already left when I arrived. And by the time he got there, the movie had started. Next. So the difference with simple past is it is important to note that the past participle is distinct from the simple past tense. Simple past is used alone to state events or actions that occur in the past without specific ties to other times. On the other hand, past participle is often used in construction related to specific times, such as present perfect and past perfect. Example of simple past is I played soccer yesterday, and she finished her book last night. Examples of present perfect using past participle is I have played soccer many times and she has finished her book. So the past participle is verb form used in the formation of present perfect, past perfect, and also in the passive voice in the English language. Next. The next one is noun. Noun is one of the types of words in English language used to refer people, places, things, ideas, or concepts. Nouns are a crucial part of a sentence as they function as the subject, doer of an action, or object, receiver of an action in a sentence. Nouns play a vital role in forming sentences, structures, and enable us to convey information clearly and systematically in the English language. And the example of sentences with nouns, the first one is the book on the shelf is interesting. It is common noun because refers to general. The second one is John is coming to the party. It is proper noun because refers to the specific name of person, place, or thing. The third one, she bought 3 apples at the market. It is countable noun because nouns that can be counted specifically. The fourth one is, can you pass me a glass of water? It is uncountable noun because a noun that cannot be counted or represented with specific numbers. The fifth one is, love is the foundation of a strong relationship. It is abstract noun because refers to ideas, concepts, or qualities that cannot physically manifested. The last one is the children played with the new toys in the yard. It is construct noun because refers to tangible objects that can be seen, touched, or felt physically. Next. The next one is adjective. Adjective is one of the types of words in English language used to provide additional information about a noun or pronoun in a sentence. Adjective help describe the qualities of or characteristics of the noun in question, such as color, shape, size, quality, or condition. And the example of adjective along with their use in sentences. The first one, big. The person is big. She has a big house. The second one, beautiful. The flowers in the garden are beautiful. The third one, red. I like her red dress. The fourth one, happy. They look happy after the victory. The fifth one, intelligent. He is an intelligent student. Next. Adjective can be placed before the noun they modify or after certain verbs like be, seem, become, and feel. Some adjectives also have comparative and superlative forms to compare the degree of a quality between two or more objects. And the example of comparative adjective, the first one, in tall, the comparative one is she is taller than her sister. And superlative one, Mount Everest is the tallest mountain. For the fast one, the comparative one is the sports car is faster than the old one. And the superlative one is the cheetah is the fastest land animal. So in general, adjectives are used to provide additional information about the qualities or condition of nouns in a sentence. Next. And this is the example of verb. Next. Okay, that's it from our presentation. If you have something to ask, feel free to comment under the video. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.